God, right. Listen, see this trend of Trump supporters going viral after learning that they voted against their self-interest? It's equal parts infuriating as it is infuriating. Because as we've seen with the spike in searches on Google post-election, like, can I change my vote and what is a tariff? More and more people seem to be reckoning with their vote after they voted.
If they let in hundreds or thousands of people who already have criminal records, if deporting them creates a mass deportation, I'm all for it.
But what if rounded up in all of that are people who work on a farm? They're doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do. Does that worry you?
That wouldn't be fair. Of course, they need to make sure that they don't throw away, they don't kick out, they don't deport people that are family oriented.
We have seen one estimate that says it would cost $88 billion to deport 1 million people a year.
I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Is that what American taxpayers should expect?
What price do you put on national security? Is that worth it?
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
Let me just overlook the obvious irony of the do your own research crowd now reeling after failing to do their own research. But we'll get to that, right? Because we're just over a week into what will be the longest 4 years since November of 2016 and the decades that have seemingly passed since Trump's first crack at fascism. But the president-elect is already off to the races, as he nominated stellar candidates like Matt Gaetz for AG and RFK Jr. for Health Secretary, a man whose anti-vaccine activism is believed to have led to a measles outbreak in Samoa that resulted in the death of 83 people, mostly children, by the way.
Help us understand what he's been promoting and what the science tells us about it.
Well, he's been promoting false information about vaccines. He's been promoting the notion that vaccines cause autism, which is clearly not true, or cause a variety of other chronic diseases like diabetes or multiple sclerosis or attention deficit disorder, and that's all not true. So what he does is, by putting misinformation out there, he causes people to make bad decisions that put themselves and their family at risk.
You also point to one episode where he spoke out against the measles vaccine. What was the impact of that?
In Samoa, there were 2 children that died immediately following receipt of a measles vaccine. And the way it works in Samoa is they have a MMR vaccine in powdered form. It needs to be diluted in water. 2 nurses made a mistake. Instead of diluting it in water, they diluted it in a muscle relaxant. Those children stopped breathing and died immediately. Now, very quickly, within 2 weeks, it was realized what that mistake was. It was a nursing error. But nonetheless, RFK Jr. seized on that. He flooded Facebook with the information that measles vaccine is killing children in Samoa. He went to Samoa. He met with anti-vaccine activists. He met with senior officials in Samoa and kept the drumbeat alive that measles vaccine was killing children in Samoa. As a consequence, vaccination rates fell from 70% to 30%. And between September and December of 2019, there was a massive measles epidemic. In this island nation of 200,000 people, there were 57,000 cases of measles and 83 deaths. Most of those deaths were in children less than 4 years of age. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had everything to do with that. And that shows you how disinformation can kill.
But as I discussed in a video yesterday, it seems some of his most staunch supporters were left reeling after he opted to bring the Warhawks into what is already shaping up to be one hell of a white tent.
That has to do with Rubio. Rubio, he's one of those that's not on our favorite list.
No.
And that means that he could become Secretary of State. And I don't think that would be good for the country.
No.
So,
or the world.
There's two different kinds of people in the world, the way I see it, when I want to simplify it. There are the authoritarians, and there are the people who want to follow, voluntarism and peaceful means. And I would put him into the category of authoritarianism because he's expressed himself. And his authoritarianism doesn't mean that he beats up on people. That's a personal thing. But authoritarians in politics is much, much more deadly.
Yeah.
Marco Rubio, what is this? What are we even talking about? The problem, I think, is that Trump is magnanimous. He does want to bring people in and say, okay, I forgive you for what you may have thought about me in the past, because that's what he should do. He should be forgiving, but he can't be so forgiving that he doesn't realize that his forgiveness is being used as a strategy to infiltrate, because that's exactly what's happening right now. They go, okay, well, they now are saying behind closed doors that all we have to do is flatter him.
Which I responded in detail with, duh. Of course he was going to do this, you imbeciles. The man appeases himself and his donors, that's it. But this leads me on to the next subject, one of many viral messages that have circulated across social media recently. In this example, after a family member decided to share a message from his Trump-supporting cousin after he learned how tariffs work. This, of course, after casting his vote for the man hell-bent on solving inflation with putting tariffs on everything.
Let's move on to the main story in this video that I thought was absolutely hilarious. This tweet went mega viral. It has 7.3 million views, over 200,000 likes. So people are getting the message. People are understanding these stories that are coming out. Someone tweeted out, "My MAGA cousin who voted for Trump texted in the family group chat," and it reads, "After reading the econ lecture notes, I have come to the conclusion that not only will grocery prices not drop, but the produces and other products will get worse. It's a lot to type and I'm in public, but will expand upon my reasoning later, but expect no longer finding green bananas. Good luck on citrus, especially since limes and lemons are exported. Dessert and pastry prices will skyrocket. Another Trump voter learns what a tariff is, and it only took the near destruction of our democracy. Maybe. We don't even know if it's going to end up being destroyed yet. But now this Impact ended up posting this. People waited until after the election to figure out what the hell was going on in this country."
And as I've said on numerous videos now, this will become a trend. And I'm not here to bask in it because guess what? We all suffer under an administration where the health department is overseen by an anti-vaxxer with a literal brainworm. But it's important to call it to attention because this is everything that Trump stands for, right? He spreads lies and disinformation that is digested by the masses, sane-washed by too many in the media, to the point that people buy what he's selling, even if what he's selling isn't in their best interest.
So let's move to your second chart about what a Trump plan would actually do to the economy if implemented the way he's pitching it.
Yeah, so why are these economists so opposed to Trump's plan? Because the economic effects would be pretty terrible. This is a study done by Bloomberg Economics, and they found that Harris's plan did not have much change in either the GDP or inflation, which in a sense is a good thing at this point. But look at what Trump's plan would do. Trump's plan would cut the GDP by 8.9%. And let me put that in perspective for you. This is roughly twice the amount that the GDP went down during the financial crisis.
Wow.
So we would be looking at something between a recession and a depression. And interestingly, as I'm sure people know because we've talked about this many times, the tariffs would cause certainly a part of this. But the biggest cause actually of this drop are the mass deportations that Trump is talking about, because he would take huge pieces of our labor force out of the country, send them back or send them somewhere else. And the result would be business wouldn't have labor. They wouldn't be able to produce things, and you'd have this enormous economic contraction.
Or it's actually what Kamala Harris was selling just without them knowing it was her. That's right, Kamala Harris's policies were preferred by Republicans over Donald Trump's in blind polling carried out ahead of the election. According to YouGov numbers, across nearly all issues, policies backed by Harris and the Democratic Party were on average more popular than those backed by Trump and the Republican Party. 57 out of 64 of Harris's policies included in the survey are supported by more than half of the voters. The same is true for just 48% of Trump's policies. And over half of those surveys agreed with her policy platform compared to just 34% of Democrats who agreed with Trump in the blind poll. The article I cited claimed, by the way, hilariously, Trump supporters were actually more favorable towards Harris's policies and their own candidate. That is not hilarious. It is absolutely tragic and a scathing indictment of how we've normalized this man and simply tread so far from the truth.
I do want to say something, though, about Tom Homan. So for everyone who said Trump doesn't know what Project 2025 is, he just put a key contributor in charge of this. And Tom Homan was interviewed on 60 Minutes, and he was asked, is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families? And he said, of course there is. Families can be deported together. He also said that it didn't mean if someone was coming to be quote unquote rounded up and grandma was in the house and she's undocumented, that it didn't necessarily mean that grandma wouldn't be taken to. And you can say Donald Trump has a mandate till you're blue in the face. Taking grandma is not what people were voting for. They were voting for criminals to be kicked out of this country.
So with all this, it will keep happening, right? The F around and find out phase is here, and it will reach many in the country.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.